So anyway, here we were in Normanton, a sizable population. We needed a masjid here, and the decision was made when a number of garages became available in Rosen Street. We purchased that piece of land. In the meantime, another group had purchased a plot of land on Wilmot Street. Now, the conflict there between the two groups was, we want a masjid there. And a lot of us said, no, we want a masjid here. So in the end, common sense prevailed, and we built a masjid here. And soon after that, the first phase of that project was complete. It was only a small masjid. We started collecting money from within the community. When we got to something like 99,000 pounds, it was close to 100,000. When we had that in the bank account, we awarded a contract to a local builder. Yeah. Now the committee that was overseeing the project was elected by the members, and unfortunately soon after the project started, there was some sort of a tension between the president of the organisation and the secretary of the organisation, and the committee more or less collapsed. But it was by no means, the collapse of the project. Other people within the community stepped in and saw the whole project to completion. Initially, it was a small building. It would accommodate for something like 300 to 400, maybe even 500 people. It was a two-story building, but a small building. Now, what you see on Rosen Street today is, I would say, the largest masjid in East Midlands, following several extensions. Yes. Now, once we had actually sown the seed for somewhere to have a base for ourselves, the work for the community did not stop. We built a masjid here, and soon after that, the first phase of that project was complete. It was only a small masjid. We started collecting money from within the community. When we got to something like 99,000 pounds, it was close to 100,000. When we had that in the bank account, we awarded a contract to a local builder. Yeah. Now the committee that was overseeing the project was elected by the members, and unfortunately soon after the project started, there was some sort of a tension between the president of the organisation and the secretary of the organisation, and the committee more or less collapsed. But it was by no means, the collapse of the project. Other people within the community stepped in and saw the whole project to completion. Initially, it was a small building. It would accommodate for something like 300 to 400, maybe even 500 people. It was a two-story building, but a small building. Now, what you see on Rosen Street today is, I would say, the largest masjid in East Midlands, following several extensions. Yes. Now, once we had actually sown the seed for somewhere to have a base for ourselves, the work for the community did not stop. We needed another place where our youngsters could get together, and that basically was the Pakistan Centre, community centre. We could use it for other sort of cultural activities. We could use it for weddings. We could use it for meetings. We could use it for various other things, other than the activities that take place in masjid. So we were fortunate to obtain a grant for that from the central government. It was called an urban grant. The amount was something 150,000 pounds, but in those days it was a huge sum of money. I mean, today you probably wouldn't buy a two-bedroom house, but then a two-bedroom house would only cost you about 10,000 pounds, maybe less. So anyway, it was a big sum of money, and we delivered a Pakistan Centre. Myself, Muhammad Ayub, my friend who has now passed away, and a number of other people within the community. And they were very, very sort of, our group were very active. They kind of worked towards certain goals. It didn't really matter who got the job done, as long as the person had the capability to deal with it. That was the most important thing. That was the most important consideration within our group. So everybody, I can give you the names of everybody. Najib, who's now sort of passed away back in 1999. 1991. He was very active in the community sort of projects. Haji Bashir, whom you met the other day, he was another very instrumental sort of figure in all of this. And we were supported by a number of elderly people at the time who were very well known within the community, and they, did an excellent job when it came to fundraising. In those days we don't do that anymore, but we used to knock on the doors once a month saying your subscription for the masjid membership is due. And in one individual's case, I can say, if he didn't get the money on first visit, he would visit again, and he would continue visiting the same house as many times as necessary until he got. And it was only a small amount. I mean, it was £3 per household per month. But anyway, such was the determination of these people. They would go at any length in ensuring that we as a community could establish ourselves. And that was not just the Pakistan Centre project. There wasn't just the masjid project. There was problems that our children faced within the schools. There was the issue of Muslim dress within the secondary schools. That had to be dealt with. There was the issue of halal meals that had to be provided within the schools. Anyway, moving away from these two, back in 1993, I was asked to contest a local election in a ward called Litchurch, and I was the first Muslim councillor elected to serve on Derbyshire County Council in Matlock. And there it gave me ample opportunities to look at these issues. Obviously, you're not elected for a specific group of individuals, but at the same time, you need to make sure that everybody gets equal treatment, whoever they are. They're not unduly discriminated. So it gave us an opportunity to obtain facts and figures through ethnic monitoring. How we are doing in terms of educational attainment in our schools. Are we, if the metric was 5 GCSEs, grade A to C, and if a certain area, say an affluent area like Duffy and Aylesford, pupils were achieving those grades, 67-70% of the time. What about pupils in Normanton?
Yes.
And those disparities we needed to find out, we needed to address. And I personally, sort of took very keen interest on educational side of things, within our community. Towards the latter, I only spent about 9 years on Derbyshire County Council, followed by Derby City Council, and one of the last things that I was able to sort of help with, and that was looking at failing schools. Village used to be a failing school in the city, and anyway, government came to the conclusion that this school is consistently not achieving results. The A to C's in 5 subjects were about 6%. So they came to the conclusion, look, we've got a lot of surplus secondary places. They did a review, and the review, I helped with that review, and they came to the conclusion that we could do with closing village, but we'll only close village and transfer the children to other, I don't know whether you're aware of Sector C. Sector C is this area we live in. It used to be, it's no more, but it used to be. In Sector C, we had a choice. The parents had a choice of 5 schools, which they could choose. Parents could choose Derby Moor, Littleover, Primrose, Sinfin, and Village. Now, in most cases, parents would get their first choice, or maybe even the second choice, and in a few cases, they ended up sort of sending their children to the third choice, etc. Now, the problem was that the decision was that I was involved with. Let's agree with the closure of one particular school, but transfer children to other schools. First, before we actually do that, we have to put extra funds. We have to bring in better teachers. Because at the end of the day, if these same pupils go to Littleover and go to Derby Moor, they can attain better So the problem is not with the pupils. The problem is with the academic setting.
Yes.
Yeah. So get rid of the academic setting, move them into an environment that is conducive to learning, conducive to academic attainment, and an agreement was that we will implement their transfer out of village in a phased kind of way. Now that's the point I left Derby City Council, and unfortunately that bit never got implemented.
Right.
People who came along did not implement that. So what happened was Sector C was abolished. Yeah, this was a year after I'd gone, and what they did was they created catchment schools. So most of the people living in this area ended up sending they had to send their children to Bemrose. Now that wasn't the right thing. The right thing was to make sure you put extra resources as needed into Bemrose and make sure it's as good a school as Derby Over, as good a school as Little Over, and then you can move these pupils there. Yes. That's something that needed to happen, and unfortunately it didn't. So anyway, that's and since during this time I was involved with a number of other voluntary projects. We set up I'm not so sure if it's still there, Derby Law Centre. There was a very keen activist within the community, Bishwojic, and he wanted to see a law centre created, and he needed the support of our community. And we were given seats on their management boards, and we actually took keen active interest in promoting the Derby Law Centre. There was an Asian horticultural resource training project. This was really providing training opportunities for the youngsters, those leaving school with academic qualifications. If they could learn to do, various horticultural activities, maybe that would open, it would give them boost their confidence. It would give them, the necessary confidence to seek employment opportunities elsewhere. So that again, I actually chaired that project for a while as well. I chaired the very first committee of Pakistan Community Centre. This was elected in a public meeting. Ayub was the secretary, and I think together we worked pretty well in developing and delivering various services for our community. That's the sort of things I've been involved with, and I've been very fortunate in a sense that people that worked with me were very, very keen, and I think they were more interested in adding value. It wasn't a question of who did it. It was a case of it needs to be done. We, the community, need it, and it has to be done. And if a lot of the people at the time, you can appreciate back in the 70s, were not as well educated as we are today. Today we really are very well educated. I mean, we have we have at least one graduate per household, whichever house you look at. In those days, a lot of our elderly, my elderly people, they spent all their time working in foundries. So they were lacking in educational aspects, and the moment we sort of got together and sort of apportioned the responsibilities, we were able to deal with the problems reasonably fast. Today there are problems, I know, and unfortunately people that are dealing with those problems, they're not oblivious to them. They know what the problems are. Our youngsters, obviously, this is generation 4 now we're talking about, and there's our population that back in 70s was, I think, what, 3,500-4,000, has now multiplied by, I would say, 6. There's 25,000-26,000 of us, Muslims from Pakistan that are living in Derby. So obviously different sorts of problems, and hence you've got different organizations involved. But whether they have a comprehensive strategy I have my doubts. I don't think they are, because they're sometimes, you know, they're working in working in tandem, and sometimes they're actually pulling apart, and rather than solving problems, they're creating problems.